Hello, my name is David Roos. I'm the Head of Service for Children in Care and Care Leavers. This is an introduction to the fostering and residential providers supplier support. What we're attempting to do is work together to do our best for Cornish children in care and involve partners in making sure that they know how to bid within the DPS and the whole DPS process. The agenda we have for this presentation is split up into different areas. The first is our priorities for children and young people now in the future for fostering and residential. We then have a section around the DPS. After that, we have details on the call-off technical process, followed by evaluation, then placement variations, and ending up with the ways in which we're going to undertake contract management. Part of my role as the Head of Service for Children in Care and Care Leavers is to look at now and the future for fostering, particularly in relation to Cornish children. In Cornwall, we have a strong in-house service for fostering. We regularly lose independent placements and around 70 are required at any one time. We're very fortunate that most of our placements are Cornwall based. The placements that are not Cornwall based are largely placements where we need to place children further afield. We have a definite need for same day placements. We have a need for adolescent placements, sibling group placements, disability placements and parent and child placements. One of the things that we are keen to do is encourage permanence, and we will work with all of our fostering providers around permanence. And the last thing that we are keen on is placement support. We have a specialist placement support team, and we're looking at ways in which we can help support our independent fostering providers with skilling up their workers in terms of training, but also at times providing some dedicated placement support. The second part of my presentation is about now and the future for residential. In Cornwall, we have approximately 30 to 35 residential placements that we access through the independent sector. What we are looking to do is increase the number in Cornwall because we have a limited number. Most of our placements are with adolescents, but some are younger children, and there is a growing trend for younger children at the top end of primary range, the lower end of secondary range. We have a definite need for adolescent mental health placements. We do have a new unit in Bodmin, which we believe will increase the number of local placements that we'll be trying to source, and some of those will be residential. In more general terms, our residential placements are made around behavioural issues, self-harm, discharge from adolescent mental health units, and also we have an increasing risk around CSE and the need for some specialist provision around CSE. The last thing that we're very keen to do is work with independent and in-house fostering providers and residential providers so that we can establish a step down to fostering.
Thank you, David. I'm now going to take us through the rest of the slides. My name is Rob Buckley. I'm a strategic sourcing specialist supporting my Together for Families colleagues at Cornwall Council in setting up this DPS. The reason that we wanted to set up this DPS is to help deliver high quality and affordable placements, and also to help stimulate market development for placements within Cornwall. I think the benefits will be around reduced risk in terms of having a flexible DPS where you can join without committing to large framework agreements. You can bid for digestible amounts of work, which we will hope will lead to provider development in Cornwall, and you can apply to join at any time. So those are some of the key reasons why we went about setting up a DPS. And now I'm just going to take you through kind of what a DPS actually is, and then go on to the call-off process. So a DPS system is essentially an open framework. Whereas a framework is limited to 4 years, a DPS can run on for much longer, in this case up to 10 years. And as I said, as an open arrangement, suppliers can apply to join at any time. If you are not successful on your initial application, we will give you detailed feedback and you will be able to reapply. We use Proactis as our DPS platform. It has to be run as a completely electronic process. I'm now going to talk through the mechanics of how a DPS works. I'm not going to talk through this specific slide in detail. This is the onboarding slide, which is really here for reference because you would have already passed this stage, so I won't read through the detail. But it is just again to show you that the DPS is open for the lifetime for other suppliers to join the DPS. It is a relatively quick and simple qualification process, and all suppliers who meet the criteria are added to the DPS. If you need any support with an onboarding process, please contact myself or my colleague. This slide shows the second stage of the DPS, which involves the call-off process. Now that you're on the DPS, you'll be invited to bid for placements through this call-off process from the 1st of September 2020. You'll receive a notification through Proactis when a placement is advertised, and if you wish to bid for this placement, you'll need to complete one quality response question and insert your price and submit. It's an attachment-based system where you download our template attachment, complete it with your information, reattach it back into the system and send it back to us before the deadline. This next slide follows on from the previous slide around the call-off process and the PR1 document and the submission document. When a placement is published through the DPS, it will contain an PR1 form. The PR1 form is the individual placement request, within which you will find redacted information on the young person, their needs, geographical requirements and the anticipated outcomes. Your tender submission will need to meet the requirements of the PR1 form. So again, as mentioned in the previous slide, your submission document will need to be downloaded and completed with an answer to the quality question and your price, and this will be then uploaded back into the system, returned to us by the deadline highlighted in the DPS. This next slide goes into more detail around the call-off process and the tiering model. When you submitted your initial application to join the DPS, you would have been allocated a tier within the residential and fostering lots based on your price and your quality score to join the DPS. So the call-off procedure is based on a clear and transparent commercial tiering model that was published with the tender. Providers on the DPS will be given the opportunity to apply for every call-off in line with the tiering model hierarchy. So commercial advantage in terms of order of approach through the DPS is given to providers in Tier 1. Providers in Tier 1 will be approached before providers in Tiers 2 and 3. If there are no tenders or appropriate matches from Tier 1 providers, the Council will approach providers in Tier 2 to submit a tender. Providers in Tier 3 are only approached if no tenders have been received from providers in Tiers 1 and 2. Providers also have the ability to move between tiers throughout the duration of the DPS. This next section is around responding to a call-off within the Proactis system, and it will guide you through the technical process of responding to a call-off. However, before we leave the previous section completely, I would ask you to revisit the Schedule 4 call-off process, which forms part of your contract, as that gives the complete and detailed summary of the call-off process. Okay, so when a placement is advertised on Proactis, you'll receive an email notification that there is an opportunity that you may be interested in providing a quote for. To respond to this, you'll need to log into the Proactis system. After logging in, you'll be taken to the system homepage, which is shown in this slide. And at the top right of your screen, click the notifications link shown in the red circle. The next stage is to click on the relevant notification, and this will bring up the full notification, as you can see underlined red in the slide. In this example, a foster placement is being used, and this is the example that will flow through the rest of this guidance. The notification will detail what type of placement it is. In this example, as I've said, it's a fostering placement and it shows the closing date. You'll only receive notifications for the lots you've applied to join. So you click on the link, which will take you to the event page. This slide shows the events page referenced in the previous slide. Before you access and start your response, it's worth noting whether there are any messages that have already come in and been answered by the Council. Messages are where clarifications that have been submitted will be answered. In this case, there are no messages, but if there are messages shown, it's always worth reviewing them before starting your response. You then click Start to begin and access the activity summary. The activity summary shows the deadline for the response in the top right hand corner. In this case, there's 38 minutes remaining. The activity summary is where you'll find the PR1 form and the quality and commercial submission document, together with the service agreement terms and conditions. The terms and conditions should already be familiar to you as they were published as part of the initial procurement process. You'll need to download these files and complete the fostering, quality and commercial submission document based on the requirements of the IPR1. Once you've done this, you then click on Start My Response. Once you've clicked on the Start My Response, that will take you through to the response page, which is shown on the slide here. The response page shows you in the Your Response box to the right of the slide what is missing in order for you to complete and submit your bid. For your submission to be considered, you will need to accept the terms and conditions. If you do not, you will not be able to submit your response. A copy of the terms and conditions can be found in the documents that you downloaded on the previous page titled Service Agreement. Where it says Response Documentation, Files and Links, click Add. Here you will need to add your completed fostering, quality and commercial submission document. Next, click the Edit button next to the Additional Information. By now reaching this stage, you would have already now completed your quality and price submission as part of the single Word document template and reattached it back into the system. You would have also accepted the terms and conditions. On this page, you now have the opportunity to add some additional information, such as a reference number, response information, or additional comments if you would like to. If you don't want to add anything though, you can click on the tick box and then click Save. You will see that you are now returned to the response summary page, where you have the opportunity to do a final check of everything before making your submission. Once everything is attached and accepted, you should have green lights on everything apart from the Submit Your Response checkbox on the right hand side of the screen. When you are happy that everything is correct, click the Submit Response button. Once you have clicked Submit Response, you will get this confirmation box, and when you are ready, you can click Yes, I am sure I want to submit, or No, I will submit my response later if you would like to make any further changes. Once your response has been submitted, you'll be brought back to the summary page, which will give you an overview of your submission. This page will also record when your submission has gone in this case at the top of the screen, 17th of February at 10:58, and importantly before the deadline shown on the right hand side, which is at 11:30. If you then realise that you need to update or change your submission, you can still do that, provided that the deadline has not passed. To do this, go back to the activity summary page shown earlier in the slide set and click Change Response. The Council will not have access to any of the bids until the deadline for the tender has passed. When the deadline does expire, the Council will download all bids and evaluate them in line with the published evaluation methodology. This is based on two sections around quality and price. The quality submissions will be sent to the practice leaders for evaluation. The practice leaders will consider the offers and whether they meet the identified needs of the child as detailed in the PR1 form. The quality submission will be scored in line with the published evaluation methodology. Price will also be evaluated. Prices will be scored on a comparative basis within respective tiers. This will be done by recording the lowest price submitted by any of the tenderers. Then for each tenderer, dividing this lowest price by the tenderer's price and then multiplying it by the allocated weighting. This next slide shows an evaluation and ranking example. The table shows that 3 providers bid through the call-off process for this particular placement. It shows that the quality weighting was 70% and that the price weighting was 30%. It also shows that providers 2 scored equally highest on quality, but that their price was the most economical, and therefore their combined score of 86% meant that they ranked first and were awarded the placement. This next slide gives some information around placement variations that may need to happen throughout the duration of a placement. For more detail on this, please again refer to the Schedule 4 call-off process, which contains a detailed flowchart and variation process. Throughout the placement, Cornwall Council would expect that children and young people will be supported to meet their outcomes. And as they do, outcomes need to be updated accordingly. Any variations recommended to the Council to either increase or decrease support will be assessed and approved by the Resource and Care Panel prior to any changes taking place. This will be in line with the published process flowchart within the call-off document. Any variations will require an updated IPA before approved changes take effect. Charges associated with variations outside of the approved process will not be eligible for payment. In terms of contract management, DPS placements will be overseen and managed by the Together for Families commissioning teams in line with the Council's contract management toolkit. This will cover an assessment around outcomes and due diligence. More information on the Council's contract management toolkit can be accessed on the Council's website. In due course, we will be publishing a full placements DPS provider pack in plenty of time for the DPS to go live on the 1st of September 2020. In the meantime, you can contact my colleague Dave Bray or myself with any DPS or process related queries. If you have any queries regarding a particular placement through the call-off process, you will need to follow the clarification process, which is detailed within the call-off document. Thank you for taking the time to sign your organisation up to our DPS for placements. We want to work strategically and in partnership with you, and we see the DPS as the next step to develop relationships to enable the best for our children and young people. We hope that you'll find this guide useful for responding to opportunities that Cornwall Council will advertise from the 1st of September 2020 via the DPS.